Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday, November 5th, 7 p.m. And we are in regular business session tonight. Our first item of business is establishing a quorum, and all members of council are present. The next item of business is the disposition of minutes for sessions held on October 15th and 22nd. I could have a motion for approval of these minutes.
So moved.
Okay. Motion for approval of the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The minutes have been approved. We now have communications. We'll start first with city council members. Are there any communications? Yes, Councilmember Crowell.
I'd like to let the public know, and council as well, that the Environment and Sustainability Commission has finished its data collection for the Sustainability Action Plan for the city. It has been determined that accurate data could not be collected, particularly in terms of energy, for 2016. But we believe we do have complete accurate data for 2017, so that will be the baseline year going forward. And we have a meeting Wednesday night, and I think we'll be finalizing that draft and have it ready for public.
Great. Yes, Councilmember Katsas.
Yes, President Nisley. I wanted to remind everybody that the next Athens City School District Board meeting will be happening on November 15th at 6:30 p.m. in the high school auditorium.
Okay, thank you. Any other communications? Okay. We'll move to reports and communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason. Okay, and I don't believe Auditor Hecht is here yet. Mayor Patterson, any communications?
I don't, President Nisley.
Okay. We always have another opportunity at the end with announcements. Okay. Well, then we'll move right on to ordinances for third reading. 11318 is an ordinance establishing East Park Drive as a new public right-of-way and is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. I move that we accept 11318.
Second.
Thank you. We've talked about this numerous times and seen the map. It's making a rather complicated issue of several facilities, such as utilities and stuff, in the area down by the pool. And this will help to regulate it and make it more rational as a right-of-way.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of this ordinance. Any other comments or questions from council members? From administration? From the audience? Okay. We'll take the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 11418 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 29, Housing Regulations, Chapter 29.22, Water System, Section 29.22.04, Water Heating Facilities, introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. I move that we adopt 11418.
Second.
This is to bring our code up to the state ORC code and manufacturer's intentions.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of this. Any other comments or questions from council members? From administration? Any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, I'll take the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, so we have 1 in opposition and 6 in favor. And the motion carries. And the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 11618 is an ordinance extending the pilot residential parking permit program for 1 year and is introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 116-18.
Second.
And this is extending this parking pilot program that allows in some areas of the city going from 24 hours to 72 hours. And this is just a continuation of this pilot program to collect more data on the process.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval. Yes, and I see that we have a comment or a question from Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Nisley. Prior to voting, I just wanted to express my support for this ordinance and want to thank the administration for their efforts as well to implement this. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Administration? Okay. Any other comments or questions from the audience? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 11918 is an ordinance authorizing the auditor to reduce 2018 year-end appropriations and is introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. Everybody make a motion that we adopt 11918.
Second.
This is just part of our end of the year cleaning up our balance sheet. The auditor needs to speak to this. Is here in the audience.
What? At the end of the year, we estimate our revenue and we estimate budgets. At the end of the year, if our revenue didn't come in and our budgets are higher than what we actually got, then the auditors don't like that. We're not allowed to spend money we don't have. We've never done that, but just to make sure that we don't go over what revenue we actually have, we have to reduce our budgets at the end of the year. A lot of times that can be very minimal amounts in a lot of different funds. So we do this blanket ordinance every year ever since the auditors asked us to.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. All right, we have a motion and second for approval of this ordinance. And any other comments or questions from council members, administration, audience? Okay. Move forward with a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We now have ordinances for first reading. 12118 is an ordinance authorizing an emergency medical services land use and lease agreement between the City of Athens and the Athens County Commissioners and is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. We talked about this last committee meeting. This was a generous donation from TMS and to the county. And the idea of this area is going to be, it's going to be used for various public service, emergency medical services, and other health and safety services. And one of the ideas is to have training and such out there. So it's a lease and land agreement with the council, with the county.
Okay, thank you. And any other comments or questions on this introductory reading? Okay, thank you. 12218 is an ordinance accepting an easement on Hillcrest Drive from the Board of Commissioners of Athens County. This is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. As we talked last week in committee, sometimes when cities and other boundaries, such as the county boundary, when they are in that border area, sometimes you have odd happenings in various jurisdictional lines, and this will help to clean up and make rational some of the jurisdictional lines in this area, so that, especially for a road maintenance and authority over a road. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other comments or questions? We'll move on to Ordinance 12318, an ordinance amending Title 39, the Wellhead Protection Plan. This is introduced by all members of council. And do we have a council member who is ready to speak? Thank you, Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Nisley. As discussed in committee, this is a process of reviewing our wellhead protection plan instigated by Mike Cooper, the health sanitarian at the Athens City County Health Department. And what we have found in the wellhead protection plan is really just some areas we can make the language more precise and consistent throughout. So the language that is slightly changing is the following. Any spills of regulated substances, including but not limited to pesticides and fertilizers, shall be reported to the Service Safety Director or his or her designee immediately upon detection of the spill. And that is in 2 places in the ordinance, and that is the only updates. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Good to have this updated. All right, we'll move on to Ordinance 12418. This is an ordinance amending the 2018 appropriation ordinance and introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. Allow me to read the ordinance for the first time. Section 1, the 2018 Appropriation Ordinance 15017 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the following sums. $14,300 is street fund, 220 transaction code 500 for purpose of extending Hillcrest Drive to serve the, I'm sorry, how do you pronounce their name? Urielli's driveway, and increase the total appropriations by said amount. Section 2, the 2018 Appropriation Ordinance 15017 is further amended as follows. Decreasing General Fund Auditor 101.102, Transaction Code 300 by $30,000 and increasing Transaction Code 600 by same amount for income tax refunds, and decreasing General Fund Cemetery Fund 101.115, Transaction Code 200 by $1,700 and increasing Transaction Code 500 by same amount to purchase a trailer for equipment transport, and decreasing and increasing the appropriations by said amount.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council members or administration? Okay. Or the audience? Okay. Ordinance 12618 is an ordinance suspending Athens City Code 7.05.03, continuous parking in the same location from Sunday, December 16th, 2018 through midnight on Tuesday, January 1st, 2019, and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
And President Nicely, you skipped 12518. I don't know if you want me to speak to that one first or
yes, thank you.
Okay.
I put a check mark right by it as if we'd gone right on by. Okay, 12518 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to suspend temporarily the fee for parking at metered spaces in the municipal parking garage and declaring an emergency. Introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nicely, thank you. And this is the first time that we've spoke about this. Christmas is sneaking up on us very, very quickly, and so this is the suspension of some parking fees during the holidays. I know that we did not speak at this at committee, but this is a standard issued ordinance every year, so we figured it was better for us to release it sooner than later so we can get a couple reads on it before the holiday season comes up. So this one, ordinance 12518, Section 1, the Service Safety Director is hereby authorized to suspend the fee for parking in the municipal parking garage, excluding the 2-hour metered spaces on one upper, and the dates as followed. After 5 p.m. on Thursday, November 29th, and December 6th and 13th, 2018, and all day Saturday, December 1st, 8th, and 15th of 2018.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, we'll move on. Now we'll read 12618. Get to hear it a second time. An ordinance suspending Athens City Code Section 7.05.03, continuous parking in the same location from Sunday, December 16th, 2018 through midnight on Tuesday, January 1st, 2019, and declaring an emergency. Introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
Thank you, President Nicely. This is a nice ordinance in that it explains exactly what it is in the title. And this is a suspension of the 24-hour parking regulations that are in effect throughout the year, but over the Christmas holiday, there's a few factors that really don't lend itself to being a thing that we should be doing during that time.
Any other comments or questions from council members or administration or the audience? Okay, we'll move on to 12718. And this is an ordinance providing for the issuance of $220,000 of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of renewing notes previously issued to pay part of the cost of improvements to this municipality's wastewater treatment plant and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not going to read through the entire ordinance in this case or the next one. They're rather long and involved and mainly have to deal with our arrangements that we'll make with the local lending institution to finance these notes. Needless to say, this is necessary. We have already built the wastewater treatment plant. We're still in debt for it, and we have to continue to pay and service the debt. And this is what we do with this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions from council members, administration, audience? Okay. We'll move on to 12818. An ordinance providing for the issuance of $250,000 of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of renewing notes issued for the purpose of paying part of the cost of design engineering of the water treatment plant facilities improvement, Project 307, and declaring an emergency. Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. Spoke about 127. In this case, it has do with our water treatment plant where we get our fresh water supply. Construction is already underway there, and we're paying part of the debt that was incurred to build that facility. In this case, it's for the design phase.
Thank you. And any other questions or comments on this one from council members or administration or audience? Okay. We now have a one reading resolution. This is R1018. A resolution expressing support of the Bailey's Mountain Bike Trail System project of the Wayne National Forest and is introduced by all members of council. And I believe Councilmember Crowell will be speaking to this. Thank you.
Thank you, President Isley. This project is an exciting project. The resolution has all the details. I'm going to go ahead and read the entire resolution, and then I believe we have a member of the audience who will speak to it. This is a resolution expressing support of the Bailey's Mountain Bike Trail System project of the Wayne National Forest. Whereas the Wayne National Forest has embarked on a plan to implement a 1994 concept for trails through the Wayne Forest, and whereas this 88-mile human-powered trail system will be one of the longest connected trail systems east of the Mississippi, and whereas the Wayne National Forest, as part of this trail plan, is pursuing funding for the project in concert with Rural Action, and whereas this trail system project has the potential to strengthen economic development in the Athens area and the Appalachian region through increased tourism, and whereas the trail system will promote activities that are consistent with the Athens City Comprehensive Plan that promotes a healthy environment, and whereas the trail system will be available to mountain bikers of all skill levels, as well as hikers, trail runners, and nature watchers, and whereas a portion of the trail is designed to be ADA accessible, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio. Section 1, the Athens City Council is supportive of this project and the positive impacts its completion will have on the Athens community and the Appalachian region. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect at the earliest moment permitted by law upon its passage and approval by the mayor. Thank you, and I'd like to recognize, yes, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, council members. We at the Wayne National Forest.
Sorry, can you tell us who you are?
I am Dawn McCarthy.
Thank you.
I am Partnership and Engagement Specialist for the Wayne National Forest. I have been working on the Bailey's Mountain Bike Project for almost 3 years now with several other team members. We are happy that you are considering this resolution to support the mountain bike system. It is a very important project to the Wayne National Forest. We see that this has the potential to really increase tourism in the area and improve the quality of life for all residents in the area. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is a one reading resolution, so you could go ahead and make a motion for approval.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution R1018.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion and second. Any other comments by council members or administration? Mayor Patterson.
You want to note that I've received multiple postcards from individuals across the state and beyond in support of Bailey bike system. So just as a communication to council, I'm hearing support all over the place.
Okay, good to hear. Any other comments from the audience? Okay. We have a motion and second for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Thank you very much. We now have announcements and other business. Our first will be a motion for approving some appointees to the Housing Appeals Board by Council Member Grace.
Thank you, President Isley. Yes, I would like to make a motion for approval of the nominees to the Housing Appeals Board. This is a board that is, the provisions are already in existence, but we don't currently have members serving on this board. So we have people who are willing to fill those volunteer positions, and they are Brian Miller, Nicholas Bittner, Wesley Ratko, Joe Kraus, Nick Polsinelli, and the alternate appointees are Thaden Bryant and Mary Abel. And council would like to express their gratitude to these citizens for their willingness to serve on a board. And I make a motion that we approve their nomination.
Okay. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. And it looks like we have some comments. Yes?
We do have some comments.
Councilmember
McGee. First, I would like to thank the City of Athens and the administration for finally coming forward and reinstituting the board. It's my understanding that it's been non-existent for 15 or 20 years for all practical matters. I wanted the students to be aware in particular that this board, as far as I understand, deals with issues where the Athens Housing Code Enforcement Agency has decided an issue, is my understanding. And that issue, based upon my reading of this now, would give the students a right to actually appeal a decision to this board if they felt that the code enforcement had ruled against them on an important issue concerning their health or safety. I'm not sure that we've had such an issue or at least such a board for the past number of years, and I think it's important to have it. My only concern in this particular proposition, though, for these particular nominees, I know by the ordinance itself we have certain qualifications for the nominees, an architect, an insurance person. I think that's very well reasoned, but I do have a question whether anyone knows whether any of the nominees have any interest in as landlords, or their spouses have any interest as landlords, since there is one landlord required for the board. I was just curious whether anyone knows the answer to that. Thank you.
Mayor Patterson.
I do have an answer for you. One of the members that you just brought forward on that slate is a landlord in the city of Athens. So does that answer your question?
No, the question was whether any other members are landlords or spouses are landlords.
Oh.
Does anyone know?
We would have to confirm that. And is your point being, if somebody else is a landlord, that what?
My point being is that if the purpose of this legislation and the appointments is to have a fairly representative deck, so to speak, then if we have one landlord and one insurance agent and somebody else and a tenant as well, my only question is, if we have more than one landlord, should we know that we have more than one landlord, since the issues that are going to be decided by this board are going to affect students and citizens and landlords. So it's supposed to be a fairly representative group. So my question is simply, is it a fairly representative group? That's all I'd like to know.
That's a fair enough question. And yes, comment from Councilmember Grace.
Yes, I don't personally know every one of these individuals, but I do personally know several of them. And that Brian Miller, Joe Kraus, Nick Polsinelli, Thaden Bryant are not landlords to my knowledge. Or Joe Kraus is the landlord, but the others are.
The others are
those
not.
are the ones that I know well, and I know that they. So Brian, Nick, and Thady are not landlords.
Well,
Councilmember Katsas.
not to go into the weeds, but a tenant landlord or commercial landlord, are they the same or are they not the same? Because then that's the problem with a small town. Everybody knows everybody's business.
The language says, when possible, at least 3 members of the board shall be representative of the following or similar areas, so at least 3. And then they mention insurance, urban planning, law, architecture, or engineering. 1 member shall be a current landlord of residential rental property. So that answers that question. And 1 member shall be a current tenant. The remaining members must cross-sectionally represent the community at large. And we did work to have at least the alternates, I know, in different neighborhoods in the community. So, any other comments or questions about this? Or Law Director Eliason, do you have any comments about it? Okay, no concerns at this point. Yes, Councilmember Grace.
Just also to note that we're not at this time addressing the legislation where the ordinance is we're only addressing nomination of members to this board. We're not changing any of the requirements or governing rules for the board. That's already in place.
All right. We have a motion and second for approval of these nominees. Any other? Oh, yes, Mayor Patterson. I'm sorry, you've got to be very quiet over
there. A brief comment to Member McGee's question or concern is that there was considerable time put into identifying people who would be willing to serve on this and following the letter of the law as it currently exists for the different sectors that should be represented on this board. And I think we accomplished that. But it's an ordinance, so if you choose to change it, then that's under your legislative purview. But at this point, that's, I think, like I said, the sectors that are involved in that legislation as it exists been satisfied with the slate that you're considering right now.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember McGee.
If I might just respond, and again, I would thank you for your comment. And I am delighted, truly delighted that the board is being actually reinstituted and that we're getting the members. And I applaud those people who are willing to serve on any board, because I know it takes time and it takes energy and it takes a lot. So my point is simply this, that I would suggest that perhaps in the future that the question be asked if you have any potential conflict, and that would be a potential conflict. Again, I will vote for this board simply because at this point in time, I'm more anxious to see a board that can deal with the issues, and there are some issues, as everyone knows. So again, I think the conflict is just something that should be considered whenever boards are being nominated. Thank you.
Thanks for the comments. Okay, we have a motion and second for approval of the nominees to the Housing Appeals Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, they have been appointed and thanked by all of us, yes, for their willingness to serve on this. At the end of the meeting, we always have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items that have not been covered on the agenda. Is there anybody in the audience who is wishing to speak tonight? Yes. Come forward. You've got 3 minutes. And if you can also provide your name and address so that folks in the audience and all of us here tonight will know.
Certainly. Good evening, members of council, Mayor Patterson. My name is Damon Crane. I live at 96 Hudson Avenue in Athens. I own and operate Hot Potato Food Truck, and I'm president of the Athens Mobile Vending Association. I have a short time to speak and a bit to cover, so I'll have to speak quickly and trust you can all review tonight's video if you're interested in what I have to say. I'm here once more to talk about mobile vending in Athens. As I've explained previously, the current vending ordinance enacted in 2013 slashed reserved vending hours in the Union Street vending spots to nearly 1/3 their level previous to 2013, More specifically, the 2013 ordinance left the vending spots up for grabs to the general public after 4 p.m., thereby making weekend late-night vending extremely difficult. As an aside, the new policy of requiring meters to be fed until 8 p.m., coupled with the 2-hour parking limits, will now make late-night weekend vending all but impossible. I've also explained to Council previously how the changes of the 2013 ordinance combined with other factors, including changes to OU's academic calendar, the move of Baker Center from Union and College to Park Place and South Court, greater concentration of the late-night bar crowd around the intersection of West State and North Court Streets, and more competition uptown from corporate chain restaurants, all to result in a situation where vendors started having a much more difficult time doing enough business to operate on Union Street. So what did vendors do? We operated on Union Street less regularly and less frequently, which in turn further reduced demand for our products because would-be customers could not count on vendors being there, and this in turn continued the progressive decline in business for uptown vendors. Yet the Union Street spots have remained the only location where mobile vendors were allowed to operate on city streets except during a handful of festivals per year. By immobilizing would-be mobile vendors, the city made it impossible for us to change with changing pedestrian traffic patterns. So we continued to try to make the most of the Union Street spots, but the city also required that if we wanted to do business during any portion of the year, we had to pay to reserve the spots on Union Street for the entirety of the year. Perhaps not the best example of good city planning, this not only gouged struggling vendors, forcing them to pay for what most of the year, or much of the year rather, they could not afford to use. It also meant that members of the general public had to deal with the frustration of not being able to park in reserved vending spots that were left vacant much of the time. Responding to this situation exactly 1 year ago this week, Councilmember McGee sought to scapegoat vendors for poor city planning by blaming, quote, selfish vendors, that's literally what he called me in an email all of you got to read, for hogging these prime parking spots.
You've got about 15 seconds left, just a fair warning.
7 months of discussion about a new vending ordinance finally resulted in Councilmember McGee bringing forward a proposal that was roundly defeated by a majority of council. That led to Councilmember Crow forming an ad hoc committee, which unfortunately has only met once in the last 5 months, and now we're finding ourselves back in the same situation where the most recent suggestions from Councilmember Crow are that vendors should expect to wait 8 to 14 months more for any changes that might actually benefit us. My argument is that we need pro-vendor changes to the city vending ordinance now, not in the year 2020. If things continue as they have been going, there will be few vendors left in Athens by then. So I hope we get to talk about this more in the days ahead.
Thank you for taking the time and coming tonight. And we appreciate the comments, and it's not time for discussion. We will have an opportunity for that, I'm sure, at a follow-up committee meeting on another night. Thank you. I neglected one thing before we moved on to that opportunity. Were there any other announcements that you had? Mayor Patterson, good.
I do. Just a reminder to everybody that this weekend, the weekend coming up is Veterans Day, will be Monday observed. There is a Veterans Day parade which will start at 10 a.m. And that will go from Morris to State Street to Carpenter to Court to Union, and then a gathering at the West Union Cemetery as well during that. And along with that, trash and recycling will be backed up one day throughout the week since, again, Veterans Day will be observed on Monday, the 11th.
And so we will have committee meetings on Tuesday rather than Monday, just an announcement. And we will be having our meeting next week will be a committee meeting night.
That's Monday the 12th.
Correct. But Tuesday will be the committee meetings. Thank you. All right, we'll all be there. Yes, Kathy, Auditor Hecht.
I just wanted to add something to what you said. Did you say the parade is ending at West Union Street? Typically, Veterans Day, they're at the monument.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Kathy, thank you, Auditor. It is. It's at the College Green, so thank you for that correction.
And you mentioned that was Monday.
That is, what I've got is that is Monday at 10 a.m.
Okay. I also heard there was something Sunday at 11, but I will find out. I believe there is. Sunday at 11 is what I've been told. Yes. Councilmember McGee.
Thank you. I just wanted to emphasize to everyone present and on the TV audience that this is a special Veterans Day. It's the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War. A lot of your ancestors, grandparents, whatever, fought in that war, and a lot of them died. And I think it's particularly important for people to realize this is a special occasion.
It is. And one other announcement that I'm sure everybody here and everybody watching tonight is aware of, but tomorrow is Election Day. So to urge everyone who's 17, 18, registered to vote to do that. It's very important too.
And we will make sure to get the correct date for that parade out there. It's
Sunday.
It is Sunday morning.
Veterans Day. Yeah.
It is.
Memorial Day.
Sure.
Date changes to when Memorial Day is, but Veterans Day, it's always 11th day, 11th hour.
Thank you, Auditor Heck.
Okay.
So,
okay. We're going to be entering into executive sessions shortly. Yes. Oh, Councilmember
I just want to make sure that there isn't anybody else who wanted to speak on any items not on the agenda.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wanted to take 3 minutes to speak on any item? Okay, but good that we asked. Thank you. We're going to be entering into executive session. So what happens is we do a motion and second with a roll call vote, and we will be ending at probably 7:40. We will allow Dr. Sudis' students to speak with members of council or the administration for 15 minutes. So if we leave at 7:45, we'll be going into executive session at 8 p.m. And then after that, when we come out of executive session, we will open the doors and adjourn so that if anybody has, unfinished items that they need to discuss further, they can do that. So if I could have a motion for the executive session.
Go into executive session for contract, thank you, collective bargaining and pending litigation with all members of council, the mayor, the service safety director, the auditor, and the law director.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And roll call, Councilmember Butler?
Aye.
Reisner?
Aye.
Crown?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Katsas?
Aye.
McGee?
Aye.
Grace?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have 15 minutes.